go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:02. Sandra, are you ready to proceed? Okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Mira, are you recording?
I'm about to. I just let someone in. Hold on one second.
Okay, no worries. Okay.
Recording now.
Awesome, thank you. Just a couple housekeeping items before we move to roll call. Let me follow with Mira first. Were you able to resolve the chat situation?
No, I have not been able to resolve the chat.
Okay. We're having, our last special meeting was in Google Meets, and the chat was activated there. We're having some trouble getting it activated when we're on Zoom here. So that kind of negates the next point I was going to make. If you are signing up for public participation and for whatever reason you have trouble, feel free to reach out to the LSC email, and I'll check it ahead of the meeting to make sure we have everybody included. We're going to try to get the chat feature going by the next meeting so that you will be able to sign up for public participation via the chat, but you will be required to have your name, just like in person when you have to sign up on the form. We would need your name, and then also you would be placed in queue behind those who had signed up ahead of time. So just wanted to let everyone know that that's how we'll be moving forward. Lastly, I know we're kind of all in a bit of limbo with what the school day will look like for the rest of the week, but just wanted to let the community know and the rest of the board know that regardless of outcome, we still are charged with work to do for the school year. And so regardless of what our learning structure looks like for the next regular meeting, or for any committee meetings or anything that may be scheduled between now and then, LSC business will proceed as usual. Okay, let's do a roll call, please. Go ahead and start off, Mira, please.
Mira Weber, principal.
Lori Viets, parent.
Nick Hall, teacher rep.
Marilyn. Marilyn Claudio Cotto, staff rep.
Emily Holberg, teacher rep.
Cindy Watola, parent rep.
Sarah Ogato, parent rep.
Can you go again, Mac, please?
Yep, Mac LeBoon, community rep.
Here's parent rep.
Oh, no, that's fine. And I'm looking around.
Kendra.
Tina Holder King, parent rep. I don't see Kate on, is that correct?
I have not seen Kate.
Okay. I'm missing someone. Do you have? Oh, okay, yeah. Sandra?
Yeah, Sandra Richmond, community rep.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that just leaves Kate absent right now. So next we'll move on to item 3, which is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
This is Sarah Ogato. A motion to approve the agenda. I'll second it.
Okay. I'm not sure who seconded.
I didn't see.
Yeah, I didn't either. Who seconded the motion?
This is Sarah Ogato.
Oh, I thought you made the motion. Okay, who made the motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Lori, I'm happy to make the motion.
Okay, thank you. So motion by Lori, seconded by Sarah to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? I just want to chime, oh, does someone have something? Okay, I just wanted to chime in that we inadvertently left an item off of the agenda that was supposed to be on here, and that was the discussion and vote regarding Sergeant at Arms. So that will be taken up next month on the March agenda. Any other discussion? They will take vote on the motion on the floor to approve the agenda as provided prior to the meeting. We'll vote by roll call. Mira,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mac,
Yes.
Kirsten,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
and I vote yes as well. Sandra, you have the count.
Yeah, it's 11 yeses, unanimous.
Thank you. So the agenda is approved. We will move on to approval of the minutes. There are various items to take care of here. First, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the organizational meeting on January 13th. Is there
I'll
a
second.
second?
I'll second Mira. Mira will second, sorry.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote by roll call. Mira,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Same.
Emily,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Sarah. Sarah, thank you.
Yes.
Mac,
Yes.
Kirsten,
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
Okay, and I will vote yes as well. Sandra, do you have the count?
I think Kate just joined.
Sorry,
Yep.
Oh, okay. Hi,
had
Kate.
some technological issues, sorry. Yes,
No worries. Did you hear the motion on the floor?
Yes. yes,
Okay. And your vote is?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
So total is 11 yeses, 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you. The motion carries to approve the minutes from the organizational meeting. Next up, we have, I sent out a couple meeting minutes from meetings that took place with the previous council in discussion with Jose earlier today. Well, first, the special meeting in November, which was held November 17th. Quorum was not reached at the meeting, but we proceeded with the meeting and discussed items that are on the agenda. And so there are minutes to that regard, who was there, what the topics discussed were, and who was absent. Per conversation with Jose in the Office of LSC Relations, we are not required to approve those minutes, as obviously it's a different council that has been seated. However, it is a chairperson's choice to put the minutes up for approval. Of course, each person has to make their own decision, but I do want to vote on approving the minutes from the special meeting just in the spirit of transparency and maintaining a written record of the meeting. So I will make a motion that we approve the minutes from I should say the revised minutes, because they are not the ones that were sent out to the previous council. I motion that we approve the revised minutes from the November 17th special meeting. Is there a second?
This is Sarah Ogata. I second.
Any discussion? Okay, we'll vote by roll call. Mira,
No.
Lori,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Marilyn,
No.
Emily,
Abstain.
Cindy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mac,
Sorry. Yes.
Kirsten,
Yes.
Sandra,
Abstain. So total of 8 yeses, 2 nos, 2 abstentions.
we're not quite done yet.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Kate,
Yes.
okay, and I vote yes as well. What's the count?
8 yeses, 2 nos, 2 abstentions.
Okay, the motion carries then to approve the November 17th special meeting minutes. And then another set of minutes was sent out from the December 2nd meeting. I believe it was the December regular meeting. Again, same situation. It was a previous council that was in seat at that time. However, the minutes were sent out to document that the meeting took place, who was there, who was not, and the discussion items. So I move that the minutes from the December regular meeting be approved. Is there a second?
This is Lori. I'll second. Could I also, Jackie Price, I think your microphone is on. That might be the source of some of the feedback.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask a quick question? This is Kate.
You know what, let's get I'm sorry, Kate, I'll come back to you. Lori, did you second the motion? You did, right?
I did.
Okay. Yes, Kate, sure, discussion.
I'm sorry, I did not get to look through everything, but I just was wondering if someone could explain to me why there was controversy about whether or not we should approve the minutes, because I just want to make sure I understand.
Controversy about which minute?
About approving the minutes or not. Is there some discussion of that the minutes are incorrect, or was there concern that the meeting shouldn't have happened, or I'm just.
I abstained because I didn't read them yet.
What?
I abstained because I didn't read them.
Okay, but I just was for
The
people.
question was just whether or not we should, whether or not we could, because it's a separate, because it was a different council and not everyone was there. So there was just some questions that need to be clarified.
Okay, all right.
Any discussion on the December regular meeting minutes? Okay, we will vote by roll call. Mira?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Emily?
Abstain.
Cindy? Cindy?
Yes.
Thank you. Sarah?
Yes.
Mac?
Yes.
Kirsten?
Yes.
Sandra?
Abstain.
Kate?
Yes.
And I will vote yes as well. Sandra, do you have the count, please?
Yeah, 10 yeses, 0 nos, 2 abstentions.
Okay, thank you. The motion carries. The minutes from the December regular meeting are approved. That is all of the minutes for item 4. Now we'll move on to the principal report, and Mira, take it away.
I'm sorry, Tina,
Oh,
not to make this last even longer, but don't we have the minutes of the special meeting from last week?
oh, you know what? Thank you, Nick. I forgot about those. Emily, are we ready to move forward with those?
Yeah, so I sent them to you, and then you gave me a couple pieces of feedback, which I incorporated, and then I believe I sent them to the whole board.
Yeah, you
Sorry.
did.
Okay.
We voted on three things. Minutes from the special meeting, January 13th, and then November 17th, December 2nd. Did I get that wrong?
Those are the correct dates, but the January meeting was an organizational meeting. So that wasn't a
Okay.
special meeting, it was an organizational meeting. And so thank you, Nick, and thank you, Emily. The minutes from when was that? January, gosh, I can't remember the date of that meeting. January 20th, yes, the
20th.
January 20th special meeting were provided to the board, so we need to vote on those. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes as sent out by Emily for the January 20th special meeting. Is there a second?
I second. Nick seconds.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll vote by roll call. Mira,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Kirsten,
Yes.
Andra,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Sandra?
So unanimous 12 yeses.
Okay, great, thank you. So the motion carries. The meeting minutes from the January 20th special meeting are approved. Okay, now we will move on to the principal report.
Okay, I sent the report to all council members, but before, part of my report was actually the update on the renaming of our school being presented to the Chicago Board of Ed at the March Board of Ed meeting. And Dr. Sweeney from the Office of Equity is actually here this evening to kind of speak to some of the renaming. And so I'm going to let him speak before I open it for questions on my report. So Dr. Sweeney, I saw you somewhere. There you are.
Hi, everyone. I particularly wanted to come to this meeting because I know we have new folks on the LSC. So congratulations to all of you on your appointments as you figure out what is the work ahead post-pandemic, ongoing pandemic, ongoing racial justice. And I think that this work that the previous team has done, and some of you were involved in that, whether it was being a part of the 2 community meetings or one of the actually 3 community meetings, one color, that a lot has happened and a lot is going on. And I'm just excited that we're getting to the end of the road in terms of changing the name of the school, but also thinking about what does it mean for you all as an LSC to continue to advance the work of inclusivity, justice, and equity, diversity, and just all of those wonderful things. So thank you for giving me space on your meeting, Principal Weber, and once again, congratulations. I'm in the process of preparing a presentation for the board and writing a letter to you all as LSC members to just sort of recap the data in which we've been grappling with for this time. I know in the previous LSC meeting, there was a recommendation for Harriet Tubman. There was also looking at the data with Katherine Johnson. And just there was a lot there. So as a team, as an equity team, we're looking at all the data, making sense of it. And then I'm going to write a letter to you all, sort of closing, not necessarily closing out the process, but just telling us where we see this work standing. And I will also plan to have a meeting with Myra and Tina to just talk about, you know, what do you all see as a part of the vision after this sort of name change happens, and what do you see as the work ahead? We know that Agassiz is the school formerly known as Agassiz, we'll see whatever the final name is the sort of the first school to go out the gate with the name change. Some of you have seen the Sun-Times article. I know Tina, you participated in one of the, maybe both of the articles that were written. And people are asking me what's happening with the name change of the other schools, and I'm not telling anybody anything yet. I want to have a full recap of this process. I want it to be documented well, because what I think made the difference in this process is student voice. And really, how do we support students with renaming their school, knowing that 20 years from now, they will always get to look back and say that they were a part of this process and they played a very significant role. So I'm very excited about that. And right now we're going through what the data says, what students selected, looking at the notes from the previous LSC meeting, and then coming back to you all with our thoughts on the process and also presenting that to the board. And because the chat is not available, what I'll do is I'll hang out for a little while just to see if people have questions that are probably more district specific around the name change process. But just know, because your school is the first one out the gate, we really want to be supportive in what the work looks like post name change. What does that mean for an LSC? What do you grapple with? What does that mean for race, equity, and inclusion? What are the conversations that need to continue happening? How do we think about data? There's a lot there. And one of the things I think you all wanted as a community, and we wanted as an Office of Equity, is for this not to be just about changing the name of a school. We know that only changing the name of the school is cosmetic. And you all with teachers and students have been doing some really great.
I mostly just joined so that Mira has.
So you all have been doing some really, really deep work, and we want to just make sure that we can continue to support as much as we can. So I wanted to come here personally and say, once again, congratulations. We're in it with you. And I'll hang out with the camera off, so when we get to public comment, if people have questions or inquiry or however the meeting flows, I'll just stick with it. I can be here until 7. I do know that. I do have a phone call. You know, lots going on in the city. So
Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maurice. So with that, I sent out my principal report, and if there are questions for me at this time, council members can ask away.
I'll jump in. For the equity work, the ongoing equity work past the name change, just wondering if all of the equity work will be tied to actions in the CIWP, or will we be able to go outside of that?
I guess I don't understand the question fully. I mean, you're part of the group drafting the equity priority and all the different pieces that will come within that. I don't think that we will be able to capture everything within that document. And so I envision there will be things that come up that we may end up needing to discuss or talk through or address that may not, necessarily be stated in that document. That will be obviously a guiding document for us to start the work. But I mean, I think as with anything, we can use remote learning as an example. Like, none of that was in the CIWP. And we had to, really shift and make adjustments and get on top of it and, change some of where our funding was going, things like that. And I think that's just human nature, and, us doing what needs to be done. But I would like to think that the heads we have coming together around the priority itself for the CIWP would give us a good kind of framework for that.
Okay, yeah, you definitely answered the question. Thank you. Now, as far as, and this may be more for you, Dr. Sweeney, I'm not sure, but as far as next steps with the equity work past the name change, will your office be involved at all in professional development and ongoing professional development around equity?
Yeah, we're definitely open to that. A part of the process would be, what does the school leadership team and the LSC deem is critical? And then how do we support that ongoing learning? So from our office, it won't be, hey, everybody do this thing. It would be, what do we think is the best way to continue the work moving forward? And we're definitely supportive of that. And just know also, for us as a team, we will continuously document the work that's happening. We know Chicago's history of segregation and current state of segregation and where people live, and how, I think there's just such a beautiful opportunity here across race and across gender expression to really do some great work. And so we would love for this to be one of the model communities that really does this work really well.
Agreed. Thank you. Mira, the Wellness Wednesday idea, that sounds like a really fun idea, and especially in these with remote learning, that's really very
Let's hope we
creative.
get to do it, Tina. Let's hope.
Very creative. I like it. And just wondering, what are some examples of like the type of activities that are being put forth as examples? And also, will the classes engage as a whole group between in-person and remote, or how will the breakouts work?
So we had a focus group of staff who signed up to kind of work on this. And so a few different teachers signed up to work on it, and our school counselor and IB coordinator. And so what we have kind of a skeleton of an idea or a schedule. And so each classroom would start and end with kind of a morning meeting or a closing circle. There'd be an opportunity for each classroom at a grade level to interact in breakout rooms. So potentially both third grades, and then they would do breakout rooms, you know, across the grade. So it wouldn't just be with their own classroom. So they'd get to see grade level peers. And then different ideas around themes. So the first one, which we would now move back when this kicks off, is around safety. And so we pulled together different books. Miss Craig, the counselor, pulled together the book Little Spot Wears a Mask, I think it's called, and like a read aloud around wearing a mask and talking about what that feels like in school or when you're in the community, things like that. The idea being each week would be a key theme. So the first week we thought would be safety. We had one around gratitude, mindfulness, love, trying to tie it into the pledge drive and Valentine's Day. And then just different activities that teachers could pick from to do with their own class or to do across their grade level. But so that really teachers had support and resources, and it wasn't something everyone kind of had to scramble to find their own thing. So it was a group of staff that came together to basically pull it together for them.
Yeah, it sounds really good, especially the piece of the breakout rooms, because that's of course that's huge with the state of
Yeah,
things.
we want kids to be able to socialize, not just with their own classmates, but with peers. Certainly, you know, with the transition to reopening and knowing that someone be at home and someone be in school and some of those different pieces, even more so wanting to structure opportunity for just kind of socialization, even if it's unstructured, but to give that space.
Yeah, that's really good. I noticed in your principal report, when you talk about the communications sent out, you have in there that all families. So does that mean that all of our families have been confirmed to be receiving communications?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure where you are, but
oh, it's okay. Like under competency D, when you talk about the when you talk about your Tuesdays with Mira, and
yeah,
then
so
as well.
We use Aspen, and I click on, you know, primary contact, and I click on alternate contact. I know at the beginning, some people weren't getting those because I don't think they were primary. So now I add both. But the other reason, the other communication is through by placing it on the school website. So to make sure that if some people don't get those communications, they are on the school website. And then initially, I think one maybe went through room parents, but I don't think the other two did. And that's just, I just didn't get that to Lisa to send, but through the website and my weekly emails and a separate email just to parents through Aspen.
Okay. And well, never mind. This will come up during another agenda item. Do you want? I just had a question on budget transfers. I don't know if I missed a printing or something. Was there amount, or did I miss an attachment or something?
No, I don't have. So I don't have a final amount yet. We've been inventorying all of our recess equipment, and so basically. Not plastic balls, but you know, like dodgeball kind of material balls, hula hoops, jump ropes, things that we could easily clean down after a recess that kids could do socially distance and be safe. So we've inventoried all that, and we will need to purchase some recess equipment, it would be under. So typically what we've done is 1,000 to 3,000. I just notify you that we're spending the money. And so it would never be over $3,000. So I'm basically just notifying you that from that student fee, we would spend no more than, but I don't even think it would be close to $3,000 on additional equipment for students to be able to take outside and safely play. And then we can clean items that can be easily cleaned off afterward.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
So I don't have, I can happily send out an exact amount when I have it and present it again next month. It was just letting people know that we do see that as a need that we would need to take care of.
Okay, thank you, Mira.
Can I ask something around the budget? Do we get a copy of your budget every month?
You do get a copy of the budget. So this time, unfortunately, our scanner, so technology, our scanner is jamming every time I try and scan the document to put it in my email to send to you. So I have created a workaround where I have the CPS document and then a separate spreadsheet that I use to track spending month over month that I will, I'm going to scan on my phone and send it to you that way.
Awesome. And maybe we put new scanner on the list. And what
It
is
just
the
needs,
budget?
yeah, it needs maintenance.
What is the budget about that you have access? Like you can approve this without LSC approval. What is the cap?
Under $3,000. So anything in internal accounts between 1,000 and 3,000, I notify the LSC that we're spending it. Anything over 3,000 from internal accounts, I get approval for prior. But then anything from Oracle or CPS, which is the 1155, the board funding money, I get approval anytime there's a transfer or a purchase.
Awesome. I have two others questions about wellness. Are we doing anything as a school for History Month for February, or any of our Wellness Wednesdays around that, or any?
Not Wellness Wednesday. Student Council has taken an active role, and Student Voice Committee is also working on some things for that also as well.
Awesome. And my next one is about, for all of these things, just putting it out there, you put together a committee with teachers and staff. If there's any way we can start thinking about ways to get parents involved as community, especially because we're remote, just thinking about more ways to get parent involvement, not just LSC members, but reaching out to the community as a whole to participate. I think that we have a lot of people who are kind of just really excited and ready to get back in there. So just throwing that out there to start to think about that.
Yeah.
I had a couple of questions. Thank you, Mira, for sharing the report. Just wanted, there was a mention, going kind of piggybacking maybe off of China's question about the CIWP. There was mention to the priority group, as it sounds like this group is there to kind of leverage some of the thinking around the equity work. Am I correct in interpreting that group in that way?
Yeah, so the group that met was actually the CIWP team that had been in place from drafting the CIWP we had previously approved, whatever that, I mean, last spring was it only? It feels like a long time, but it was just last spring. So that same group came together, and what we're doing currently, we came together and discussed equity, adding it as a priority and thinking through, the if-then statement with some action items. But what we're doing now before we meet next time is basically reviewing the entirety of the CIWP and making sure that places where we had equity embedded, one, that we still feel it's appropriate where it's embedded versus pulling it out and having its own separate item. Or if there's other places or if there's other places where we can embed it more to just, kind of enhance the entirety of the document.
Curious, is there some type of lens, if you will, or framework or if you guys are using the CPS equity framework as you're looking through those different buckets, if you will, on the CWP?
Yes, that's exactly what we're using. So excerpts, we've been using the CPS equity framework. I can actually, if you guys, as a council, I can share with you the entirety of the document and all the resources that I shared with the group that we are working through as kind of reference points. Some of them are Illinois standards. Many of them are teaching tolerance documents that we've used, but all kind of couched under the CPS equity framework and pieces from within that document, which in itself, if you haven't had a chance, anyone to look through, is a wonderful guiding document and a lot of information. And so that is where we started. I can certainly share that document with the entire LSC.
Thank you, Mira. One of the things that I've come to learn and realize as a parent and talking with other parents is just kind of, going into this learning situation, we're building the ship as we're moving the ship, right? And so one of some of the parents and other councils are mentioning and noting the impact of learning and what that has on that. And we know that we have to maintain certain criteria as students are moving forward and for students and for teachers. But, grades and how that really at the end of the day is kind of, there's one notable stat that I believe it was from the district office, noted was they're seeing an influx of a lot of A's and a lot of F's. So I was just really curious to know how that looks for our school with regards to what that looks like. And then, how this will shift as we move in and out of our learning spaces, and what that means around equity. I'm very curious, but just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, it's Sarah, it's interesting you mentioned grading because I'm also on a grading principal group that's working on a guiding document for the district around grading. And one of the pieces we're working on is like a grading audit that you basically do at your own school buildings around equity as a starting point to talk about grading practices and philosophy. So it's interesting that you mentioned that. It's something I've been working a lot on with that group that I actually had listed for us to look at as part of our CIWP around grading and grading practices.
That's great. Great. Thank you, Mira.
Yeah.
I had two quick things. First, Mira, I thought the principal report was great. It was very informative, so thank you. I saw the school-wide attendance is above 95%. How does that compare to other schools?
That's a good question. I don't know during remote learning in the current situation where many schools are. I haven't followed it. I would assume it varies kind of based on, much like any time, right? Based on a lot of the different factors. For us, actually, well, and like that 95, we've always, wanted to hit that 96 consistently, and we're getting closer. But I'm actually really pleased with the 95.5 that we've had. It's been pretty consistent throughout the remote learning period. So I'm not exactly sure of other schools. I just don't have that information.
Okay. And then the other question was, I saw you're also working on a district-wide development for a renaming process and policy. Can you talk a little bit about that? What's that like?
Yeah, so much to what Dr. Sweeney said, using the experience that we've kind of gone through, but also looking at the current policy itself and pieces of the policy that are maybe outdated or need some, like the policy itself doesn't state that you rename a building if the person you're named after is a person who has practiced racist practices or philosophies. So pieces like that, also looking at the work that the Office of Equity did around the research behind how many schools are named after individuals that are, questionable, and an audit of which schools really need to kind of go first and prioritize. And then thinking through, a big piece for me coming from the principal lens is like thinking through what the capacity is for the equity office to support schools in the process. Because I do think after going through it, having someone from that office to support you, even if it's just as a principal to like bounce ideas off of in between the different, pieces of the work, is really critical, and I found to be exceptionally helpful. And so thinking through the capacity of that office and how many schools you can really have going through something like this at once to be able to do it in a really true, meaningful way. And then also just talking through like what does get presented then for if it is a policy change, if it's just a guiding a guiding handbook of like best practice as to how to do this and engage people in the work. So really just a sounding board, and having, like Dr. Sweeney said, been the school that kind of partnered with them first, giving them kind of perspective from where I sit and where our community has, what our community has gone through.
Got it. Well, that sounds great. I think you definitely have as much expertise on this as anyone. And I think there's a lot of expertise across the LSC on this as well. And so, Dr. Sweeney, as you're working on this, I hope members of the LSC get a chance to kind of weigh in and share some of our experiences as well.
Yeah, I think that was to map to that point. That was something that Dr. Sweeney and I talked about, and and kind of in his opening, wanting to talk through some pieces with Tina as well. I can let you speak to that, Maurice, but that was kind of the thought process, was engaging Tina, as the
Got
chair
it.
also.
Okay.
Yeah, but go ahead, Maurice, you can speak to that too.
Yeah, I think that's it. First, starting with Tina, just to talk about like, what does it mean around leadership? What does it mean around engagement? And to set up an opportunity to come back and talk to people who were a part of this process. So essentially, it might look like a focus group at some point to say what worked, what would you improve, what documents were helpful, how were the letters, all of the technical things that I think can sort of slow down a process unintentionally. And we I really want to sort of set schools up to do this work well, with going beyond the name change and elevating student voice. And there were so many parents many of you who are on this call, who had just your thoughts and ideas of approaching the equity team. And so we want to make sure that we live up to inclusive partnerships that we outline in the framework. So we will be coming back to you all.
That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Mac.
Anyone else?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just seeing if there's anyone else.
Yeah,
Please.
me too. I just said anyone.
Oh, man, I can't keep up with my screen. I can't tell who's talking. Okay. I did, just to make sure we have things captured, there were a couple actions that came out of the discussion that I just want to make sure we have down in the minutes. And that was, well, a while back, was to add Sergeant at Arms to the next meeting agenda. But for this, Mary, you're going to send out the budget information that the equipment wasn't cooperating with. And then also you're going to share with the council the CIWP and the resources that you forwarded to the team.
Yep.
Great. Okay, thank you. Now we'll move on to item 6, budget transfers and approvals. Did you have anything more to say on that? Or
no, not today.
Okay, and there's nothing we need to approve. Okay, so we'll go on to item 7, fundraising. Friends of Bulldogs proposals will be discussed and voted on. We did receive FOB information. Mira, Patty, did either one of you want to speak to that?
I'm happy to, or Patty, if you want, if there's specific questions, I can certainly do that. Otherwise, I mean, I can just speak to, and I think Patty and I have had some conversations since, I feel like we met like a week ago, but a couple weeks ago, about the power in the fund that has been set up, and the fact that parents have reached out about it, and the work that's been able to be done, and what a great feeling it's been to be able to help families in need. And Patty's done a great job of staying on top of that. And I know that was something that people had questions about, kind of how would it roll out? Would people use it? And so I think it's gone really well. Happy to let Patty speak to that also, but I know it's been a lot of work just kind of getting it off the ground, but families have certainly used it, and I think it's been a good thing.
Patty, did you have anything to add about the assistance fund?
Nothing that Mira didn't already say. I think it's going well. We've had quite a few people reach out, but more importantly, we've also had a lot of very generous donors interested in contributing to that fund, which was pretty heartwarming too. So it's definitely on both ends. I know I sent you guys the spreadsheet with what we've done so far, and I think it looks pretty good so far.
Yeah, I think it looks great. And I understand there was I think there was an update since we got the initial information, and so more people have been. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's great. Just one logistics question. Have you guys planned or discussed how to manage prioritization or repeat requests?
Yeah,
I mean,
it came up at the meeting. I mean, Patty, I can let you speak to it, but yeah.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
We did talk about it actually at the Friends of Bulldog meeting and kind of talked through bringing things back to the board, you know, having a set amount of like, if it's over a certain amount per family, that the board would really then discuss the need and the amount. And if we felt we could go above that, you know, depending on the situation, actually came across a situation like that already, which was great that we had the conversation. And Patty went back to the board. Everyone basically, it was unanimous, like go ahead and do it, but to take the onus kind of and be transparent that it wasn't just Patty and I making a decision, but that there was, you know, the entire FOB board involved in that process. And little did we know that would happen very quickly, but it did and worked out really well. And so, you know, we're able to help someone who obviously needed the help. So yeah, Patty, I don't know if you want to
No,
add anything.
that's exactly right. And we also did let that family member know, because of the nature of that specific request, that we did have to get approval, but I was quick to let them know that their name was not going to be mentioned, and that privacy was kind of the most important part of this. And I think they felt comfortable with that. So I did say that we would hopefully have a response quickly, which we did. It was on the same day that the request went out. I was able to get the board involved pretty quickly and to vote. And like Mira said, it was a unanimous vote, so we were able to help this family.
That's fantastic. I mean, you guys should really be very, very proud and grateful for the generous donations that people are making to the fund. It's really great work. Glad our families have that. I did want to throw out some accolades for the success of the Lou Malnati's and the Minted too. I mean, considering, you know, it took a while to get it approved. Let's just say not off the ground. You were ready to go, but you know, it's a challenging time for raising money, and money still needed. And so I just want to hats off to Friends of Bulldogs for getting that done.
Thank you.
And Tina, I'll just piggyback on that. Patty, and to all the FOB board, I just wanted to say thank you for the report. I really liked the way it was just a clear update on the fundraisers that we've approved, because I feel like, you know, every month we approve things and it's easy to forget, like, oh, that money went there or this. So that was a great, like, just wonderful way just to keep us updated on a monthly basis. So thank you for that report.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion around the fundraising? Oh. Mac, did you have a question? No, okay. All right, we'll move on to item number 8, committees. Discuss and vote to establish committees, if any, the council would like to see formed for the remainder of the school year. So we will have discussion on this before we vote on any, well, let me backtrack. Is there a committee anyone would like to motion, and then we can discuss that committee?
I'd like to motion the formation of an equity committee, getting to kind of, as a way to kind of support and play an advisory role for the tremendous work that's happening within the CIWP, recognizing the skills, strengths, and talents that are here within the the membership here on the board and being able to really expand the voice and the expertise that I think is, that is needed for the work. So I would propose an equity committee.
I'll second that motion, and let's discuss.
And can you say more specifically, like, because that's such a broad initiative and a very important one, can you say a little more specifically, like, what would be the scope of that committee's role?
Yeah, I think really in terms of offering additional insight and recommendations and input around the work that's happening with the CIWP and the priority group, really being able to, as a part of the LSC, kind of expand contributions and insights as to what can be leveraged within that committee. And to some extent, we can think of CIWP work kind of constrained to, not constrained per se, but just being able to focus in on the areas around school improvement. This committee, I propose, would just be yet another opportunity to ensure that and provide a way for folks to be able to offer their additional insights, ideas, guidance around how that work is happening, and being able to engage other stakeholders.
Now, it sounds like just from being on the inside with the CIWP committee that there are going to be lots of actions around doing things in an equitable manner and with equity as the center of consideration. And so I could see such a committee being involved in rolling those types of things out, helping to get them going. Like, say, for example, if we had if we wanted to form not necessarily focus groups, but like parent feedback group, around matters of equity, or by certain ages, or even by race, safe spaces, establishing safe spaces for conversations. I could see a committee, an equity committee, being involved in helping get those things identified in the CIWP rolled out and realized.
That would be a great committee to have special sponsor speakers or team with other schools that are having special events. And I think it's awesome.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? How many members do you see this being, Sarah?
I think that's a great question, because I think we had that conversation when we were talking about the work for the bylaw committee and the code of conduct committee. For any committee work, in order for that to be productive, I wouldn't say anything more than probably with, a third, if not a little bit more, of representatives here on the board, and maybe how we, are able to lean in and engage other stakeholders as needed. So if there was a number to associate with that, I think our number is what, 12 or 13?
12.
12. So, maybe between 4 to 5 individuals.
If that's all LSC members, then that has to be part of an Open Meetings Act. So
Yep.
People need to remember the constraints that will come, or not the constraints, the guidelines that will come with any committee being of that many LSC members, and the different pieces that would be part of that.
Sure. Yep.
Let's see. Any other questions?
I have a question. How will this committee work alongside the CIWP committee? So there is a common, I think often you go into it having a common goal, but you don't want sort of like competing mission statements or competing agendas. So how will these two entities work together?
I would agree, Cindy. I actually was one of the questions I was going to raise. I think the CIWP committee, the group that's working on the CIWP should really drive what that focus group would look like. I think it should live within the CIWP team as the ones crafting that, and the document that we use to kind of, you know, guide the work. So I envision, and Tina, sorry to put you in the spot, but I envision Tina's already on CIWP and working on that document that perhaps, you know, well, as am I, but being the representative from kind of the CIWP team to that committee, as being kind of a liaison, and so that the work doesn't get duplicated or one doesn't override another, because I think the CIWP needs to drive the work. And I think that potentially, you know, if Tina were to agree to kind of serve as the liaison between the two, that could potentially be a, you know, a marriage of sorts.
Sarah, does that gel with you? Is that something that you had envisioned or something?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you know, for me, you know, always having kind of some type of ongoing, you know, mechanism to kind of undergird and support, you know, of course, what the CIWP is doing, and having that liaison in a way to make sure that, you know, we're working together. We're leveraging what we can possibly leverage so that we're not creating these silos. I mean, that is critical. Oftentimes we know that within schools, there's the LSC, there's the PAC, there's the BPAC. That's, you know, not our situation, but oftentimes they function in separate ways. So how we can ensure that we're moving in a unified way, or we're moving with cohesion, is essentially important. And I think having a designated kind of committee to, you know, around equity more specifically, to help make sure, you know, there's voice, and there's these ongoing supports, and there's this lens there, and this ongoing thinking about how that work is unfolding, specific around equity, and as a part of CIWP, I think is really important. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point to establish. And I mean, of course, I'd be delighted to serve as liaison between the two. And just to kind of go back to what we talked about a little bit earlier, there will be equity work outside of the CIWP. And so having a committee in place to support that work, to do what needs to be done to get it off the ground, and to keep us all informed of that work, I think would be helpful. Any other questions? So there is a motion on the floor for the formation of an equity committee with liaison. Sarah, would you like to repeat or modify your motion at all?
Yeah. So I would motion to have the board consider approving the establishment of an equity committee with the inclusion of having a liaison designated in that committee, between that committee's work and the work of the CIWP committee.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. If there's no more discussion, we'll vote by roll call. Mira?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Mac?
Yes.
Kirsten?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
I will vote yes as well. We have the count, Sandra?
Final count is 12 yeses.
Okay, so the motion for formation of an equity committee with a liaison to the CIWP committee, or actually vice versa, CIW committee liaison to the equity committee, the motion carries. Are there any other committees anyone would like to motion? Let's see, I saw, oh goodness. I saw Lori's hand first.
Hi, I have a couple, but I'll start with one, the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart. I would love to have the LSC a committee for diverse learners and inclusion committee to support those with 504s, IEPs, how we work on our least restrictive environment. I feel that this organization would help with the advocacy, education, and support for our diverse learners. I think that it would also be really valuable that we do have a large diverse learner population at our school, and it would be great to start to spread more awareness and education and building through all of that. I see that committee with some LSC members, but also really opening it up. I would love to see our case manager, our counselor being a part of that, and all of us working together, and then invite parents. I think we have a lot of parents who really would love to get involved in this. Both those with kids with IEPs and 504s, but also those who just want to support and want to have kids that are all about inclusion. So I don't have a fancy name yet. Diverse learner, inclusion, allies. So that's my idea.
I will second the motion. Discussion, any questions for Lori?
Well, can you just, Lori, remind me in your description, it is for DL students only, or it is not?
I have to unmute. There we go. I see this as inclusion being the big part of it. So part of it would be support, because it would be great to have a place for the parents in the school to get that have those similar. I'll just be, throw it out. When I was at Beard School, we had a parent support group that we met every week, and we got together to talk about a support group, but also what's happening in school, what do we need, what can we improve. I would love to have typical parents involved too, because I do think there's a lot of room for education and inclusion. Like I could see us working with the student council on some of these things, which I think that would just be amazing. I can see us, let's say Autism Awareness Month. Let's all do something together. There's a lot of really great diverse learner committees in CPS. We talked about it 2 years ago and we never made it happen. And now we're like, okay, we're ready. And we have the framework set up from a lot of different LSCs, and a lot of people have already done a lot of the good work. So it would be great to see what they've done. But advocacy, education, support would be the main focus. Is getting books for the library on inclusion topics. Like, what is that looking like? There's just a lot of good stuff. And it's one that I would feel really important having parent involvement and staff involvement. So I'm kind of excited about it.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just excited.
Mira, did you have something else? No? Okay. One question. So it sounds like, and I may be misinterpreting this, but it sounds like you're talking about a committee that functions in a supportive role and maybe undergirding other work that is going on in the school, and making sure that diverse learners inclusion is a part of that discussion and a part of those actions. And then it also sounds like perhaps there would be some kind of support group, some kind of functional group. Now, would that be outside the committee? Like, would the committee that might be something that the committee sets up, or are you talking about collective, that whole group being a committee?
The support group being a committee?
It sounds like
that's just one of the offshoots. Like, I feel like when I envision some committees, I think some committees on certain topics are very cut and dry. So if we end up with a facility and grounds committee, that's pretty cut and dry. But something with as big as, same thing with equity, something as big as inclusion and education and allyship, that there will be other activities around that. So it wouldn't be just, we're going to have a meeting, report back, and ask if this can be included in that. There would be events, there would be educational opportunities, very hands-on, very community building.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So I guess I have a follow-up kind of to Tina's. I was thinking the same thing. So I really like the idea, Lori, of like including, there would be, you mentioned case manager and like teachers, parents, like but then in that case, I'm not sure, is that an LSC committee? Like, that's where I'm confused, because I feel like when we're talking about LSC committees, we're talking about establishing committees of LSC members. So like we did with the bylaw review is all LSC members. The one we just approved, sorry, the equity one, sorry. The equity committee would be all LSC members. So I think that's why I'm a little confused. Is this an LSC committee, or is this more like a, you know, maybe you talking to Mira, talking to the case manager, like let's establish a, you know, support group, whatever you want to call it, for all of our diverse learners and making sure we are promoting inclusion in our school. But it wouldn't be, I don't see it as an LSC committee based on what I've heard.
I think that there would be parts of it that by having it be an LSC committee would help quite a bit. Certain parts of it, you know what, it wouldn't have to be if it was just like an offshoot organization. But I think that work that I envision and what I've talked to other people about, it would be valuable to have it come under the LSC, because with the local school council, it has a weight, it has a vote, there's a clear setup already there. So I feel like it's a valuable thing to have. It adds a great message that this is part of our LSC, that we have members who'd be interested in working on that. All of it, no, I would not be coming into an LSC meeting with a report on this is what happened here or there, but there are things that I think would be valuable and would play into CIWP and other things that are happening. So I get your question, but I do feel like it's a valuable part, and many LSCs. I did go through for the other suggestions too. I did a lot of research on Chicago LSCs. What are their committees? So it's really great. If you're interested, you can just Google it and you are going to get so many schools have their committees out there. And almost every single one that I pulled up just at random had a diverse learner committee on their LSC committees.
It sounds like from all the discussion and your description, like this could be a smaller committee as far as LSC, 1 or 2 members, and then those 2 members delegate, discuss, find out where support is needed, and then pull together perhaps parent resources and whatnot to do the work. Is that?
Yeah, you don't want it, and Mira used the exact right word, constraints. When you're going up into the Open Meetings Act, you can't have, I wouldn't expect to have everybody on the LSC, because that would change it, but it would be valuable to have that and report back.
Okay. And you mentioned this idea came up a couple years ago, I guess.
That was me when I came in. I came out of our other school already because I really wanted, and Mira was very supportive, and we had a bunch of parents. And I'll just admit, then it was just getting my kids settled into the school was more challenging. I took a year off from trying to do a lot of advocacy work at the school and just did a lot of more fun stuff. So there's several people who've reached out to me when they asked me to run for LSC to bring that up. And then people after I was elected, I feel like there's a strong support from our constituents.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. It sounds like there was strong support for it before, right?
Yeah, and I know staff wanted to. There were a lot of staff members to talk to.
Oh, your mic is failing. We can't hear you.
Battery die.
Okay, now we can. What'd you say?
I don't know. I got this fancy new thing. I'm like, am I dying? Yeah. So I think that I hope that I can have the support of the LSC in getting this committee formed, because I know I have staff and family parent support to have this be a successful part of our community.
Okay. Any other questions for Lori?
Can I just ask a general question? I'm sorry, it's not about this committee in particular. I do think, this is me, I think it would be nice to know the entirety of how many committees people are thinking of, because I would hate to see us get in a position of like each person then brings up a committee, and I don't think there's like a bad committee per se, but I also don't think that it's going to be wise for us to have 12 different committees. So it, for me at least, would be helpful to know like what are other people's thinking and how many are being presented, because I don't want to make it look like I'm voting for one and not the other, but I also think we need to be very cautious about how many committees we're potentially
I totally agree. I thought there was going to be a discussion of all the different committees and then we would vote.
I just think it would be helpful for me to have some context, that's all.
Yeah,
And so I don't know if we do that now, because I know we're in the middle of a particular one, but sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very good point, very valid. So why don't we do that? So we have this one down, Lori, and so let's just open the floor. Any other committees that people are thinking of? Kate?
So I know this could be probably under the umbrella of equity, but I was hoping to have a communications committee. The reason for it, I feel like particularly for people who don't speak English, who are at our school, really it's difficult to have a voice and to feel like you're getting the communication about everything, and also creating a welcoming environment in our LSC. I was reading through the bylaws, and one of them is, like you have 3 minutes per public participation, including use of a translation. And I was like thinking about, one, that's crazy that you don't get any extra time if it's translation, because you pretty much can't say anything. So that is a problem. And then two, are we creating a welcoming space that parents who don't speak English would feel comfortable coming to our public participation and having someone translate what they were saying? And I really would like to create an environment where parents do feel comfortable in that, and that we make sure that we're communicating, that we're kind of getting everything out there so that people can read it in their language. I even feel like we would need to start with, I'm not sure if Mira has all this information, but what languages are being spoken in our school, enough that we should be maybe thinking about trying to translate some of what comes out of the LSC into those languages. I know we translated the letter that we wrote last week into Spanish, but just kind of really making sure that we're being intentional about that. And so even though, yes, it could be part of the whole equity piece, I feel like it's a smaller, more tangible project to be working on to try to get that going. And I would imagine this being a small committee, but just kind of putting it out there early that this is something that we want to work on, and then having a small committee that's working on steps to move forward that we need to answer to the LSC and kind of report on the progress we're making. I participated in LSC discussion at another school 2 weeks ago, and they were translating into 4 languages simultaneously. It was insane. I don't think we need that at our school, because I don't think there's 3 other predominant languages, but I was just really impressed and thinking that we could be doing better.
That's yeah, that's really good. Actually, Kate, I wanted to piggyback off of what you said, because I've been thinking about something along the same lines. And in my mind, I see it as what I call it was an engagement and partnership committee, so that it's not just communication. That's a big piece of it, but also encompassing the effectiveness of our communication, translations, like you said, and working with Mira and other groups to get everything translated. It just hit me. I want to thank Patty for finding a resource for getting that resolution translated into Spanish when we didn't have one at the school already. So it's really important, and luckily she came through with that, but it's something that's definitely needed. And not only just the communication and partnership, but also collecting metrics on our communications and who's showing up for what, and what are the demographics of those groups, and what engagement level do we have for parent-teacher conferences, and within the confines of anything we have to deal with confidentiality-wise. But I think the committee you speak of, Kate, could encompass all of that.
And I think your committee sounds like a better name. I just couldn't come up with a better one. Engagement and communication or something along those lines would be fantastic, or just engagement. because it really is about creating a welcoming space where all parents feel comfortable to be part of this. And I think communication is just a piece of it.
A big one. A lot of the schools have bilingual committees, which was another one I had looked up and did some research on. And it would be, what are we translating? Many of you don't realize that IEPs are not beautifully translated. A lot of times, other schools and stuff have tried to use Google Translate to do this really important document. So what are we translating? What languages? And then some of the bilingual committees. And I think what we're seeing is what I'm hoping and what I'm feeling is getting excited about is we're building community. And when equity is all raining down everywhere. So if we're talking about diverse learners, we're talking about our bilingual committee. Belding does this amazing Taste of the Belding Festival where they celebrate all the different cultures of the families that are in the school. And it's amazing. Beard did that every year. They did a Taste of Beard where they had people come in and do food. And it was just a way of celebrating all of our unique, where we're all from. And I know that Mira said before, we have so many different cultures, and how do we make them welcoming, but not just, hey, you're welcome here, but hey, show us everything. Let's all be under one big team. So I love that either part of a communications one, which was another one that most schools have, but even just as a bilingual one that just focuses on that because it is such a big project.
Is Mr. Sweeney still on the call?
Yes, he is.
I have a question. Hi. When you're hearing about the need for translation and schools that house several cultures and several different languages, is there some place that we can contact you guys for help with that?
We've made a list of translation services, a few in the Office of Equity. We've been even, like when Mandarin is one language, like finding who are the people who are good at translating language. And sometimes we even know with Chinese, there's simple Chinese, there's multiple versions. So it has been important. And then I will say, honestly, with COVID, some of that fell off the radar in terms of continuing to galvanize around that. But the Office of Language and Culture, if you email us, I can just forward that communication. I can loop you in that way.
Okay, thank you.
Very good question.
So Office of Language and Culture is pretty responsive. Okay, thank you.
Or if you, I'm giving you the gift of sending it to me and then I forward it to them, so you might.
Awesome.
Quick response rate. I'm about to actually hop off, but it's good to hear all this excitement. I will say, be careful of committee paralysis. And we can probably talk about that later, Tina and Myra. And the reason why I bring that up is we are working on how to support, we actually have some prototypes of how to support schools with equity teams, right? It's a thing that people really want. And we've also seen people create equity teams that have been accelerated the growth for diverse learners. We've seen some equity teams get into affinity groups and crash when they start talking about issues about race. So I think that could be a part of the ongoing work. Continue to build up your excitement and continue to put your ideas out there. I will just tell you, this is your LSC meeting, this is your group, but I would really just collect ideas and not commit to so many at one time. And once you do that, I will also say, there's a document I can share with y'all called, it's around IoT, but we're adapting it. The IoT is and is not, so that people really understand what that committee is designed to do and that the committee works towards its intention. And I think all of these, I really think, even when you said, Lori, advocacy, education, and support, I wrote down SEA, SEA, support, education, and advocacy. I was already oh, that sounds really good, trying to make little names and acronyms. I think I was getting excited about just all of the work in which you all are talking about creating a sense of belonging and success for young people. But that's just my sort of final thought. But this is good vibes and good energies. I was writing on my little mail over here, all these great notes about things. So thank you so much, and have a good night.
Especially
you.
staying
Thank
20
you.
extra minutes.
That's because you all had these ideas and I kept writing notes on it. And also in my notebook, I was like, every time I was about to log off, I was like, another one. So
Hold your attention.
yeah.
Thank
Thank you all.
Thank you. So any other committee ideas anyone would like to propose? So far we have 3.
I'm just going to throw out some of the other ones that I saw at a lot of schools, and I agree we can't, if we go off too far, but a lot of schools have an arts committee.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit again.
Arts committee.
Arts committee.
Also, communication was a big one, which Kate brought up as well. Family involvement and wellness, special events, those kind of things, a specific way of those things. So those are just some of the ones. A lot of LSCs that I looked at had at least like 5 or 6 committees. So that's just so you know what other schools have been doing. That doesn't mean we have to, but I just wanted to share my research.
Thank you, Lori. Anyone else? Okay, so the equity committee we've put to bed already. And so the other proposal were the disabled learner, differentiated learner, what did I say?
Diverse learner.
Diverse learner,
Inclusion.
Lord have mercy. I need to write it out and stop.
And we had to come up with a better, I know before it was inclusive education allies was what we were
Just
using.
want to make sure I
before.
do say it correctly. Diverse learner inclusion committee, and then the communication engagement committee were the 2 that we have discussed, but well, there was a motion on yours, Lori, and then Kate, we discussed the one that you brought up. Does that cover everything? I feel like I'm missing one, but I think that's it. Okay, so we'll deal with the motion that was already on the floor with the Diverse Learner and Inclusion Committee. Any additional questions around that before we vote?
I guess,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I might be throwing a wrench into all of it, but I kind of, I'm thinking about the idea of, and I think a few people mentioned it, how these topics somewhat do fall under equity when you think about it. And if potentially there is space for some of these items to live within the equity document for CIWP, and then there's a couple LSC members who really just champion that, and these pieces live within that document so that they're all being hit upon, but in a way that ties back to the CIWP. And so maybe that means that the equity priority is drafted with action items around each of these, and then different members of LSC are kind of taking that action item as the person responsible for that action item, but it then kind of frames everything under the equity priority within the CIWP.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking about a way of making it all tie together. And I do think there are pieces that tie together, and then different people can be responsible for different pieces, which is also part of the CIWP, is to assign, responsible parties to take that action item all the way through. And that may seem a little less committee-like, but it also may seem more connected that way. I don't know.
I like that. I just want to say that sometimes I feel like when we put equity is so huge and there's so much work being done that I agree that we all need to work there, do all that. Like separating some of these things, like for me, if it was up to me, I would separate communication, engagement, and bilingual into 2 very clear separate things. I think that being through the LSC, everything will channel through, and I think under Tina's leadership, and she's on CIWP, but I do feel that committees, and even though it may seem like, oh, we have a lot of committees, I think that there is a lot of work to be done, and it's just a way of clarifying it and showing our commitment to parents and staff that these are things that we feel are important. That's my thought.
Yeah, I guess I see the structure as going both ways. tying directly to the CIWP. And then when it comes time to roll out responsibility for those actions, then, you know, you have your key person or key entity that's identified for that action, but then the committee being a small group or handful of resources that that person who's responsible for the action can tap to get into the details of the action. And then also, again, to engage in things that may not necessarily be in the CIWP that come up, particularly with the engagement piece with the language and the metrics around communication and getting everything translated. So I think establishing the committee is a good way to make sure that we have hands on deck to do the work as it comes down within and outside of the CIWP.
And then every month for every LSC meeting, it can be sent in ahead of time with the agenda committee reports. So that if there's anything that way, the whole LSC, you may not be personally involved in that meeting or that organization, but the whole LSC will be able to see what is happening, just like we'll be able to see every month what Friends of is doing. It's just another piece of the puzzle of putting everything together and making it all clear and transparent.
Okay, so we have a motion. Oh, go ahead, Emily.
I have another clarifying question. Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we have another organization within the school or parent committee that functions similar to some of these committees? So not the fundraising arm. I believe it's changed names to ABC. Is that, or some mayor?
And they've merged right now with Friends of, if I'm correct. So
Oh,
now
have
those
they?
two organizations, and I think they all do. They have their own board and they have the way that they're run, and now they get to report every month here. But that's a different thing. They would be someone that you would work with, but I think they're different than this.
I have the same question. Like arts and wellness sort of seems like maybe a PTA.
Yes,
Could
PTA,
be.
but I think we call it something different at our school. Is that right, Mira? Could you clarify, please?
Yeah, it's the Bulldog, well, yes, it was ABC. It's now, instead of A, it's Bulldog Building Community. But so the three women who were co-chair of the BBC are now, like, instead of being their own, they are board members also of Friends of Bulldogs, but sort of they're board members of Friends of Bulldogs, but their focus is still the building community piece, where the others on the board are focused on the fundraising.
Right. So I was just listening in for the past while, and it sounded like that sort of exists already then in some regards with that group. So we might want to just make sure we're not double dipping efforts here.
So I think that there's two different things though, because I think the Bulldogs Building Community section is more about like doing engagement and like fundraisers and community activities, and you know, they do the Halloween party and they do all those kinds of things. I think what we're talking about there's a lot of different pieces to that, but I think what Tina and I are talking about in engagement is making sure parents feel like they have a voice to speak up and give their input and feel like they can talk about what's happening in the school, and that every parent has that. And I don't think that it is one of the goals of Friends of Bulldogs to make sure that they are inclusive to all parents. And it has been one of the challenges. When I was on FOA way back when, that was one of our goals. But this is a little bit different level of communication. Like that group would not be making sure that we're translating everything appropriately, or that we had a translator available at an LSC meeting or if someone wanted to submit something in a different language, we would have it translated and read at our meetings. Like those kinds of things would be way outside that group. And so I think there's different kind of definitions of engagement. And I think
see what you're saying, Kate. Yeah, I agree. And I see what you're saying very much as tying to the equity piece. I really, really, really do. I think the Bulldog, much to what you're saying, the BBC, I still say it wrong, I'm sorry. The BBC tied to Friends of Bulldogs is definitely more around community building and engagement in that way. I really see the piece you're talking about, Kate, living within I personally feel that's like an action item with a very specific intent under an equity framework or priority. So I do see those pieces, like those pieces being different, but I see what Emily's saying around like, you know, building community in itself and providing opportunities for parents to get involved and to feel included. I do see that some may feel like that is the BBC already. So I definitely see both of what you're saying.
I just wanted to lean in a little bit here and say that there, from my experience, there's definitely that continuum, if you will, around engagement. And some folks would argue that there's parent and family involvement and there's family engagement. And then that's how we see where that type of engagement rests on that continuum. From getting kids to school in time, that's a level of engagement. To participate in activities and having community there, that's a level of engagement. And then you have partnership at the tail end of that. And I think it's that partnership piece is where the committee work sits within and is definitely very much a part of, I think, Mira, what you're getting to, the work around equity. I do think that I agree with you, Mira, in the sense of, you know, they are very much an intrinsic part of the equity work. And I also very much value this idea of having some focused energy, if you will, around having this committee for parent partnership and engagement and communication, as well as for diverse learners, because it sounds like these are bubbling up as kind of what are those, some maybe, you know, priority area for our school in particular. And it sounds like we're moving in the direction of maybe 3 or 4 or just 3 committees, which I think is a doable number. But I just wanted to weigh in there and say yes, and thank you.
Yeah, just one more thing quickly. I like the idea of the same equity committee, just to have a liaison that allows cohesion between the CIWP and the newly created committee. It felt a little restraining once we sort of tried to lump it under. I don't know if anybody else felt the same way, but it felt like it just got a little too contained. And I can see for streamlining and cohesion and, you know, of ideas that's a good idea. But I think these committees deserve their own voice and their own identity. And also just as a parent, with fundraising organizations and community building organizations, those are very different things than sort of this communication in this separate community. And I know that, you know, as some parents, they look at like a Friends Of or something and they're like, fundraising, and they run for the hills. So this is a whole thing that has its own identity and its own voice that I think that more people would say, oh, but I could come over here. This seems like something that's really meant for me. So, and there's no such thing as having too many opportunities to build communities. So I'm for having these committees have their own identity and their own voice.
I just wanted to clarify that I'm not necessarily anti-committee by any means. I was just clarifying from my own knowledge about what groups already existed and what their functions were and how we best utilize all parents' time and skills and energy. Just so we're clear.
And that's just a really good thing. If you're a teacher at the school and you have those questions, you know parents have them too. And then I'm always like, who's on your CIWP? Who was on your focus group? And that could be a really cool piece to send out once we establish and come up with our descriptions. These are the committees. This is what we do. What are we missing? You know, just really sending that out, because I think people are ready to jump in, but everybody's going to have a different place where they belong and a different set of skills, which I think we have a really cool LSC. If I look at like what you all do for a living and who you are. And another thing that I think is really valuable for LSC members is maybe it has to be a conscious thing that says, hey, can one of us make sure we're at the Friends of Bulldogs meeting? Can one of us make sure we're at this thing at least, even if it's not something that's an LSC thing? I think it's important for parents, especially the parent reps. We were elected to represent them, that we are present as much as we can be, and vocal, and that people can see us and reach out.
Okay, are we ready to vote on the Diverse Learner Inclusion Committee? Motion has been made and seconded, so we'll vote by roll call. Mira?
Yes, sorry.
Lori?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Mac?
Yes.
Kirsten,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Kate.
Yes.
I'm voting yes as well. The count is,
12 yeses.
okay, so.
I cannot hide my excitement. Yay! I'm super excited.
Okay, the next,
Woo!
I would like to, well, Kate, would you like to offer a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to create an engagement and communication committee.
I'll second.
Before we do that, I just want to make really clear that's separate from the communications that I put out, and that this is very much about the pieces that we discussed, because I've not in a COVID year typically had a communications committee that works with me on specific pieces, but these would be very separate. So I just want to clarify that.
So I guess with that, is this, if this committee does get established, do you see working with them to get your communications translated? Or are you saying that you want to handle
Yeah,
that?
that piece in particular, but I would still have my own communications group that I would be working with. I would get things translated through this group, but I think I would still have my own separate communication group. They would not be the same, is what I'm saying.
Oh, I see. As far as formulating your communications and things of that nature.
Correct. Mine isn't necessarily an LSC committee. I'm just trying to make the distinction. So, because typically I've called mine a communications team that's worked with me. So I'm just making the distinction between the two. That's all.
Oh, okay.
I think team makes it really specific that you have your administration, whatever you want to call it, your team, and this is a committee.
Got it.
Any questions or anything before we vote on the motion? Okay, we'll vote by roll call. Mira?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Marilyn?
Yes.
Emily?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Mac?
Yes.
Kirsten?
Yes.
Sandra?
Yes.
Kate?
Yes.
Okay, and I will vote yes as well. Sandra?
12 yeses.
Okay, thank you. And those are the 3 specific committees that were presented. Just a reminder that the request for committee or discussion and vote for committee formation can be done at any time. This is not a one-shot deal. So at a later point, if something came up, we could add to the agenda and discuss. That we'll move on to item number 9, discussion and vote to establish standing agenda items. Let's have discussion about this first. And I would just propose from a starting point, use the agenda that we had tonight. I think there are obviously things that have to be there based on LSC guidelines. But I think previously other standing items that we talked about were the fundraising. Let's see, action items, of course, public participation has to be there. But just wondering if there are any standing agenda items anyone would like to propose.
Yeah, I included it in my report this time just because it wasn't its own, but historically IB has been a separate standing agenda item, and I would like to recommend that we keep it that way so that it's separate from my report.
Okay. A question for you, Mira, with the leadership, I can't remember what you call it. It's the leadership team that you call it?
ILT?
Yeah, okay, yeah, ILT. So is that for fulfillment of the, what is it, the PPOC?
PPOC.
Hold on, I've got
PPLC.
The PPC.
PLC? Got it.
Okay, is that, because it's something
so
that
it's kind of functioned in that way. The people on ILT have historically gotten feedback on curriculum and instruction and work on, they're part of the CIWP writing team. They help plan professional development. They are the first group I, work with on like a parent handbook when we're in a remote environment, things like that. And it has representation from each grade band and functions really around curriculum and instruction. But they've never given a monthly report. It's always just been kind of through me reporting out on that.
I think moving, I don't know, I guess I'd have to follow up with you to see the level of information, but especially as we move into equity work around curriculum, I would expect that team, that ILT, would be pretty actively engaged in that. And so I don't know if we would, I don't know the content or the how much value added would be to have a report every month. But to have a report, a standing agenda item from that group, I understand it's not an LSC committee, but it is something that is, the expectation is that there is that update is provided around curriculum and educational programs. And so that's something that I would like to see
I think
outside of the report, so that we could get a little more into the details when they review data. I know one time there was a data review and they were gleaning lessons learned, but we never really got to talk about it,
Yeah, I think that, and what we've done before is had CIWP as a standing item. And really that's where that would also come in, is the reports out on the different components of CIWP. And so in terms of curriculum, like that would also come out under, we have a priority for curriculum and we have a priority for equity. So if we wanted to have a standing CIWP item, which we've done in the past, and we just pick kind of like, next month, we want you to be prepared to present on this priority group. And so it's not like every month we're hearing about all four, but we pick one. And like, so at the end of this meeting, we would say, okay, in March for our CIWP, we want to focus on this priority. And so then my presentation is kind of tailored towards that. And so that's one way we've done it before, which would get at what you're saying, kind of around that curriculum and instruction piece.
Yeah, I like that idea, because then it gives an opportunity. If there is something, fine. If not, we can choose a different priority. Yeah, I like that idea.
So we can add CIWP, and then we should just make sure that every month as an action item, we pick which priority for the next month.
Anyone else with standing items?
I would just ask that we have a standing item around budget transfers, making sure that we have the ability to review that and support where that work needs to happen.
Yep. Yeah, I would say, just so people are clear, like call to order, roll call, approval of agenda, approval of minutes, principal report, budget transfers and approvals, fundraising. As of right now, we have IB, CIWP, public transportation, oh my God, public participation, action items and next steps, and then setting the next meeting date are typically always on there. We've also at times included every committee as a standing item, and the understanding was the committee would either submit a report ahead of time if they've met, or to update us, and then we would ask questions if we had them. It wasn't necessarily that each committee had to come and like present. It was more read this ahead of time. If you have questions, you can ask them, but each committee had a standing agenda item as well.
That always worked really well for us. It saved time. If there was nothing, it was just like, okay, we met on this and blah, blah, blah. And then people could ask the questions, but it was just like, we all don't need to read this out loud to each other.
Right.
It worked really well. And I just think, again, it just adds to our goals of transparency. And I think that parents and their stakeholders, I like that word, stakeholders would appreciate being able to see all that. And sometimes I think it also, Mira, people don't know all the work you're doing. You know what I mean? Like if we don't talk about all that other stuff, parents like, what do they do over there? And now you're gonna be like, haha, there it is. So I think
Maybe
it's
we
great.
just have one. I'm sorry, somebody was chiming in.
I think it was someone's child.
Oh, okay. Yeah, mine is staring in my face right now. So I think we have just, I'm proposing that we have just like one committee report agenda item, and then those who have something report, those who don't, enjoy the show.
Can I just ask one question? And I'm sorry, it was just how the last LSC dealt with this. Like, even though there was a fundraising standing item, agenda item, like unless the president of FOB was asked to speak, she was not allowed to speak. And so do we need to do something with a standing agenda item that she'll have the opportunity to give input without being an LSC member? Just things got real weird with the last LSC, and I want to make sure that we're building the standing agenda items so that there's an opportunity to speak to the board if needed.
Yeah,
So I would just say, and Tina, I think you and I have talked about this too. Tina and I have talked about it, like any standing agenda item submits a report ahead of time. And then much like we just said, anyone who has questions from the council would. So whether it's Patty for Friends of, or whether it's Michelle or Frida for IB or whatever, that the report submitted, I send it out with all my stuff. And then if we have questions, we can, during that standing item, ask the individual who submitted that report.
I think also, just to build off of what Mira just said, also, not just if we have questions, I think if they are part of an organization and they're submitting a report, then they deserve the opportunity to speak to what's in the report, whether or not we have questions. And I think that's been managed well so far with the new council, and I have no intention of changing that. When we have the fundraising discussion, then Patty is part of that discussion, or whomever is part of that report structure.
And Tina, I was going to suggest, based on actually how we ran things tonight, for the fundraising item, that it would be, because I think in the past we've always put fundraising approval, but if that would be fundraising updates and approval, then that automatically puts FOB in there. We would get their report. So basically what we did tonight, we can get follow-up on previous fundraisers and approve. And we want to make sure in the agenda item, sorry, it would be like, updates on fundraisers and approval of all fundraisers. So it can't just be FOB, because we might have, like in the past, I've had fundraisers for the arts, or so just kind of a general fundraiser update and approval. And I think that would then cover everyone. And just to clarify, Mira, for the committee reports, IB would still have their own item, right? Because I do think that is important, especially now we are a wall-to-wall IB school.
Yeah, it has to be on the agenda item. Yeah, it has to be its own agenda item. Absolutely. Yeah. I just put it with my stuff this time because it wasn't its own agenda item yet. So.
Yeah. Okay, so we have, in addition to what we already have on the agenda, we have the clarification of the fundraising that Nick just mentioned. We have CIWP. The IB report will be separate, and then the budget standing item. And then we're going to add a committee's, or I should say maintain a committee's standing item for those who need to report. Am I missing anything else?
I'm just looking at my notes, and I don't know if Mira, this is part of your principal report, but I have the word strategic plan.
Yeah. We've never had that as a standing action item or agenda, a standing agenda item, but it is an action item that we discussed last time that we need to revisit it, and we update it twice a year. So it is time to do that, but we had said we would do that. I think we had said last month we would look at it March or April, I think is what we said.
April is ringing a bell for some reason.
Yeah, I think we said March or April.
Okay. So yes, it's not a standing agenda item, but it is something that we do review twice a year. So it is something we need to get on an agenda in the next month or two, for sure.
So is it something that merits lumping with the CIWP agenda item in the event there is something to discuss, or is it truly whatever the frequency is, are those discussions, is that it's confined to now, is that sufficient, or is the nature of the document something that we would possibly have things to discuss?
The way it's currently written, twice a year makes sense, but I think it makes sense for this council to, I'll send I think it makes sense for this council to look at the way it's currently written and discuss if that's the way we want to maintain the way it functions or not. The strategic plan, just so people know, was kind of a document that was born, I don't remember how many years ago, by an LSC, really around the idea of aligning fundraised dollars and the buckets of money where fundraised dollars could go to support the conversations around, we raised X amount, how do you make decisions around where it goes? And so it was born out of an LSC. I don't even remember how many years ago. It's something that we've looked at twice a year in terms of making sure that there was no pieces that needed updating or realignment. I think it would make sense for this council to look at it. And then we, in our first look at it, should probably discuss, you know, do we want to even change the way it's laid out? I mean, I think there's something to be said for this council just getting familiar with it first before we decide how often. So we're all familiar with what it currently is. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's
So I can write that as an action item for me, is to share the current strategic plan so that people have some time to review it and think through, you know, how does it align to our current CIWP and where we need money to go. And then maybe once we've all had a chance to read it, we can discuss kind of what we think our next steps should be with that document itself.
So with with you sending it out, is the March meeting timeframe acceptable to people, or do we want more time to review it and push it to April?
I guess for me, that question kind of lives with the timing of when the other groups already, like the bylaws and the code of conduct group and like all the groups we said last time that we're gonna, I guess I kind of need to review. Well, I don't remember when we said those groups were meeting either.
That's March, right, Sarah?
It was March. Yep. We'll have recommendations to put forward in
Yeah.
March.
So maybe we should move strategic plan to April. I just think that doing all of those in one meeting might be a lot. But I can certainly share it ahead of time because people can take 2 months to look at it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, so we'll add to the action items for you to share that, Mira, and then I'll just jot it down for an April agenda item.
Okay.
Thank you. Were there any other standing agenda items to propose?
Does the 6-month review of closed sessions need to be standing? Like if it's every 6 months or up to 6 months, does that need to be
Yeah,
scheduled or like?
I say we, but I'm going to be doing the agenda. So I need to remember to make sure and put it on the agenda at that 6 months. With the standing items, it's more stuff that will be discussed at every meeting. So this is just something that we need, that I need to stay on top of with our FOIA OMA officer, Nick, and just making sure it gets on the agenda within the appropriate time frame. Thank you, Kirsten. Is that it for standing agenda items?
I think that's a handful.
Right. Okay. So we need to vote on this some kind of way. So I make the motion that the standing agenda items to be added. I move that we maintain the required agenda items that per the LSC guidelines, and add as as standing items budget transfer and approval, CIWP, IB report, committee, and did I miss anything? I report, CIWP, budget, committee,
Fundraising updates and approval.
Fundraising updates and approvals. Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, we will vote by roll call. Mira,
Approve, yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Nick,
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mac,
Yes.
Kirsten,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and I'm voting yes as well. Sandra.
12 yeses.
All right, we will move on to the next item, previous meeting records. That as just came up, we are required to do a 6-month review of confidential records and vote whether or not to maintain their confidentiality or not. And Nick, feel free, do you want to chime in or?
Sure. So it's, every 6 months we are tasked with just voting on whether to keep our closed session. This refers to the closed sessions, records and minutes, that we would keep them closed. And so closed sessions for the LSC, in all my times at the LSC, the only times we've used closed sessions we are mandated for the principal evaluation that is part of the OMA guidelines and the LSC guidelines, because we are evaluating an employee's performance, of CPS employee's performance, that has to be in a closed session. And then we have used closed sessions in the past when there has been a LSC vacancy. And if we are replacing, or if we are filling that vacancy, any discussion we have about filling that vacancy would be part of the closed session. So in the last 6 months, actually, I guess it would be the last 6 months, we have not had any closed sessions to my recollection. But I would say we go back, because we haven't done this in the last 6 months. So definitely if we go back a year, that would include Mira's principal evaluation. Actually, we did principal evaluation in the spring, and then finalization of Mira's evaluation in, correct me if I'm wrong, Tina, was it October, I think, that we had to finalize the final rating. Yeah, so those would be the 2 closed sessions we've had in the last year were specifically for Mira's evaluation.
So we haven't had a close, time. We haven't had an LSC appointment to fill a seat in the last year. Is that correct? I'm trying to think. I don't
In the
think
last,
so.
we're in February. No, I
Not
don't.
in the last 12 months.
So. I don't
Okay.
think so.
Okay. Just a general question, Nick, I couldn't discern from all of the legal mumbo jumbo on this. When we vote for this, were you able to discern whether or not it is a blanket vote, or is it a review of individual pieces, or?
I think the way I understood it from what I've looked at was I understand it as a blanket vote, as we are maintaining our closed session minutes as confidential.
Okay.
We're maintaining them as closed, so.
They're taken as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Discussion? Is there a motion? I guess we should ask for that first. Is there a motion on the floor?
I make a motion to maintain our records of closed meeting minutes and recordings confidential.
A second. Any additional discussion, questions? Okay, we'll vote by roll call. Mira?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Nick?
Yes.
Marilyn,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Mac,
Yes.
Kirsten,
Yes.
Sandra,
Yes.
Kate,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Sandra?
12 yeses.
Okay, thank you. Now we get into our public participation piece. I will read the blurb and Nick, will you? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, I will do the timing. I also wanted to ask, because I just double checked our bylaws. So I know at the beginning of the meeting, you had said if participants hadn't signed up, they could sign up in the LSC email, which I think is fine, right? It doesn't really matter how they sign up. But I know in our current bylaws, which I see Jose is here, correct me if I'm wrong, we're still following our current bylaws till the group amends them, right? Our current bylaws do require all public participants to sign up 15 minutes before the meeting is called. So I guess, Mira, you would know because you've been seeing the emails, right? If anyone has signed up.
Yeah.
You know, I do think we have to, I like the idea of letting people sign up, but until we amend those bylaws, and I know the bylaws committee, we're meeting, I think, this weekend, would be, we have to.
LSC at Agassiz, how are you?
Hi, Jose.
Right.
Thank you.
I've been here for a little bit, but I'm just listening. I was off camera, but good evening. Yeah, so just wanted to chip in on the closed session discussion that you had. So when you just voted to keep everything closed, right? So just for that, make sure that you do that, you know, every 6 months. And the only closed session that you won't be able to release to the public is the principal evaluation, and that is because, you know, the evaluation, it's between the LSC and the principal, so that remains you know, within your you know, closed session, you know, private minutes. But other than that, you mean the council may decide to release, you know, every 6 months some of those closed session minutes. And then in regards to your question, Nick, if you have bylaws already that dictate a way public participation is going to be conducted, if you want to make some changes to that, then my recommendation is to create, and I don't know if you created one already, but a bylaws committee, when you kind of like review your bylaws, right? And then, you know, make any changes, whatever the council decides to do. And then make sure you vote on them. And then obviously once that's done, you know, you can, you know, amend the bylaws and then make any changes that you like, so.
And so Jose, I know that, so that is our plan for the March meeting. That is our timeline. We have the committee and we are going to be meeting and looking at the current bylaws. And I think I know public participation was already mentioned last time. So looking at changing that. But so for tonight, we are still going by our current bylaws. So we have to abide by the 15-minute before the meeting sign up, right?
I mean, if that's what the council has on the bylaws, right?
Yeah.
Then yeah, because otherwise you as a council will then start an argument, you know, I mean, amongst each other and say, well, you know, we should do this, we should do that. And the best way to say it is, well, what is it on the bylaws, right? I mean, you can always change it, but there will be a discussion for the council. You know, my recommendation is if you wanna discuss them and go in detail in terms of public participation, then, you know, maybe have a discussion with that committee, you know what I mean, and see what you want to do. But for now, I mean, you know, you will need to follow what's on the Agassiz bylaws.
Okay,
thank you, Jose.
Thanks, Nick, and thanks for bringing it up, Nick, and thank you, Jose, for the clarification. I think we did have one person come through on the Agassiz email. Are there more now?
There was 2 that came to the Agassiz email, both after 5:45, so I don't know.
After?
There were both that came, there was 2 that came to the Agassiz LSC email. I'm looking at them now. Both times.
6:02, so. So 5:47 is what we would have to go by.
Okay, hold on then. Let me just check so one was at 6:05 and one was at 6:13.
Okay. I apologize to those two individuals. I did not recall the 15-minute requirement in our current bylaws while those are under construction. So I apologize for that. That's mine. So
Can I ask a question, just since that there was some confusion tonight? Would it be possible, since we're talking about two people, like 6 minutes of time for parents to, or whoever, community members, whoever's staff members to be heard? Could we say that, could we vote to see if people would be okay with them speaking? I just feel really bad when we silence people. And if it had been 20 people who signed up, that would be an issue. But I think if it's just two people, could we as a group decide that that would be okay since there was confusion?
I guess when I said there's two, sorry, I don't know if I was clear. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 who signed up and then 2 who emailed after. Sorry, I don't know if I was clear in my.
Yeah, so it would be the 2 additional who, according to our current bylaws, would not be able to speak. We can't vote on it because it's not on the agenda.
But I think it's something we could all agree, if we all agree that these 2 people due to it, that would be not an issue that would cause strife on the council. Jose is nodding. I think that if it's not going to be something that people would be upset about, right? That we open up.
I mean, I think with public participation, I mean, my recommendation is always be flexible, right? Because you want to be able to give the public an opportunity to speak. It's an open meeting, so obviously, people are probably, want to participate one way or the other. So, I mean, I don't, if the council should be flexible in that regard. I do recommend if public participation, it's sort of a topic of a conversation or discussion. I mean, you should really look at your bylaws. That way, everything's clear for everybody, But in terms of flexibility, I mean, I would recommend, be flexible during public comment.
I like that idea. I personally, I think, I mean, they've taken out their time to attend, and I think deserve the opportunity to speak, especially given that I offered it in error, not being completely clear about what the stipulations were. So, and unless there's some strong objection from someone on the council, I'd like to have them go ahead and be able to speak.
And we'll make sure that that's I know that was I'm on the committee, so we will have that all fixed. Yeah. We'll have that fixed by next time. But yeah, I would love to hear, especially if people have listened to us talk for 2 hours and 10 minutes. So I think that we can give them 6 more minutes.
Okay, so I'll.
Tina, I just wanted to say I'm not going to object, and I totally understand the sentiment, Kate. And I am concerned we are setting a precedent here where when our bylaws don't match what we thought they were going to say, to be honest, it is our responsibility to know what our bylaws say. And so I am concerned, and I just want it for the record that we are setting a precedent here where when the bylaws don't go with what we want, we just decide to change them. But for tonight, I do understand, Kate, I totally get it. It's 2 people, and I'm not going to object to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I think that's important for us to keep in mind for sure going forward. And that I imagine that it'll be something we have to consider on a case-by-case basis for sure.
Yeah, and I also do think this is an exception because Tina was trying to be accommodating, and next time we'll all know the bylaws better. And if there's a mistake made, we'll speak up earlier at that point.
Okay, I'm going to read the blurb and then we'll get going with the public participation. Members of the public are welcome to make comments and ask questions, but must sign in to participate. The public is called upon to speak in the order they sign in. The public is kindly requested to limit their comments and questions to 3 minutes. Based on the comments or questions, the principal may address some concerns directly and, if necessary, create an action step for the LSC to follow up with the involved parties at a future date. While the LSC will do its best to address any comments or questions when necessary, more time may be needed to adequately address a particular concern. Mira, you have the list?
I do. Adam Collins.
Hey, hold on. So let me turn my video on. Wait, that looked creepy. Sorry, I'm in a dark. The room's kind of dark. No, and I've been listening. I just wanted to. I've been listening. Appreciate the conversation today, and I mostly just wanted to thank everyone in the LSC and the teachers and the administration and Mira. I know this has been a really trying year, and I know there's a lot of stress and tension, particularly over the last 3 weeks or so, last month right now, and just really appreciate everyone's dedication to the school community, and the kids. So that's all. I just wanted to say thanks. I really appreciate the work, and I'm sure I'm not alone among parents.
Thanks, Adam. Carrie George. Sorry, I should scroll through. I don't. Does anyone else see? I don't see Carrie. Anyone else? Okay. Hold on. Michelle McNally.
Why did you laugh when you said that, Ms. Weber? Hello, LSC. Well, I just wanted to say thank you and welcome new committee members, and just wanted to put my MYP hat on tonight. And really the things that I wanted to bring up have already been brought up, and they were 2 items, and wanting just to make sure that the IB report was a standing agenda item. So thank you for doing that already. And then the other one, I wanted to let you guys know, the 8th grade, I don't know if everyone is familiar with the community project that they do as a requirement of being an MYP student. While 8th graders are participating in the MYP project. And we just got started, and the reason I wanted to talk to you tonight was just to make sure that if any kids or I go and present on their behalf, because sometimes they have fundraising efforts, I do not know what their projects are going to look like, because they aren't going to be able to go door to door and ask for funds. But just because we're in the very beginning, the investigation stage, if they want to ask family members or whatever, if they do any fundraising, I just wanted to make sure, as Nick said, that it's like a standing item for the IB community project. If they will choose to come, I think that would be great for them to come and present and give their proposals to you so you could approve it. And if not, I think we've done it where, like Mr. Wrench has in the past talked about their projects on their behalf if they can't attend the LSC. So just again, wanted to make sure that would be something that will be on the agenda as well. So thanks for everything, and that's it.
Thank you, Ms. McNally. Melissa Shields. And hold on.
No, I'm here.
Oh, there she is.
I just had a question for the committees, if any, that are going to include non-LSC members. I'm just curious the process that the LSC will use to solicit committee members that represent the full school community and not just the community that the LSC members associate with.
I'll say, like, for me, I would love to use Mira's communication team and really reach out to all the different ways that we can reach people, especially with diverse learners. That's something that crosses so many different groups in the school. And I would love to work with the case manager to identify, because they'll have the information of people that we know would qualify for diverse learners, as in they have an IEP or a 504, but then reaching out to the community as a whole. I would love to see as many people that want to be involved, make sure that they have a voice at the table.
Melissa, I have a few things that I'll say to that at the end.
Hang on just a second, Mayor. Thank you, Lori, but can we go ahead and get through all of the people who signed up before we chime in? Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. I'm sorry, hold on. Patty Lenkoff.
Hi, sorry. Sorry. I didn't fall asleep. Thank you for adding me. I just want to say I was not able to sign up yesterday or today to speak. So there was definitely some technical difficulties. I don't know if it was just me, but it kept asking me to sign in to CPS. And anyway, I wasn't able to sign up. So thank you. I did get in touch ahead of the meeting tonight. So I'm glad you were able to add me. I just wanted to say thank you to Mira for the multiple Tuesdays with Mira's that we've had pretty much every week for the last few weeks. For as a parent, I really appreciated the opportunity to just show up and ask questions. And I know that there was a lot of work put into presenting the slides for the reopening plan. And thank you, Mira, for answering all the questions. Some of them were, just specific to that one person, but you were gracious in answering all the parents' questions. And I for one, really appreciated that. Also, I just wondered if anyone had any information about tomorrow. I don't know if anyone's seen any news yet. And then lastly, I just wanted to say with respect to Sarah's suggestion on the equity committee, thank you for bringing that up, Sarah. I think it's a great idea. And I just wanted to follow up and say that I know that there are other schools that have these already. They're called different things at different schools, but like, for example, I've been in touch with one of the group leaders at the Coonley one who has, theirs is called an anti-racism group, and they do a lot of listening to TED Talks about different equity issues. They recommend podcasts. They discuss articles exploring the inequities with COVID distribution, just about really engaging and educating the community. So I do think, I'm glad that it's going to go through the CIWP committee as well, but I do see not necessarily a specific committee that's needed for that, but maybe a group or, for parents and staff and even students that want to get involved. I think we're in a unique position right now as we're going through this name change process. And as Dr. Swinney said, they're kind of looking at us to see how to kind of model future ones. So I do think we are in a unique position to be strong in that area and show that we have that going too. So thank you guys.
Thanks, Patty. Shirag Mehta. Oh, I see you. This one I see. There's Shirag.
Yeah, hi, everybody. First thing I want to say is just really appreciate the teachers, staff, administration, and all the parent volunteers that are just plugging away and just making sure our kids are getting the education that they need, and families are getting the support that they need in this crisis. It's been a tough time all around, so just tons of appreciation for all of the hard work and commitment. The one, I guess, a question or suggestion I have is around the name change. I was just wondering if there's a plan, maybe if I missed it, I apologize in the presentation, but if there's a plan for representatives from the school, maybe even students, to present at the CPS board meeting around the name change. It could be an opportunity for, again, particularly the students to share what they learned from the process and even a little bit about the names and so on. So just I thought, and hopefully I didn't miss anything in the presentation.
Thank you, Shirag. Rich Lenkoff. I don't know if I saw. I don't see Rich. I don't know if anyone else does.
He's gone, I think.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, yeah, Patty. Okay, that is all. So let me go back. So Melissa, I think to your point around soliciting community at large for committees, actually, this is one piece that in all of the presentations kind of around renaming and the equity work that we've talked about doing, and something that I think needs to live in our equity document is equity of voice for parents. So I think that, much to your point, and to bring that forward, that is something that we need to look at. It is something that I feel should be a living piece of our document. And so starting with how do we engage parents in committees would be I think a great place to start. So I appreciate you elevating that. Patty, I don't know what happened with the sign up. Others signed up, so I don't know. I have no idea what's going on with that. Happy to troubleshoot. Tuesdays with Mira, it's been fun. I'm glad that they've been helpful. It's kind of just a standing item in my calendar now, so you never know. They may just keep coming. I'm glad they've been helpful though. They've actually been helpful for me too, just in terms of, everyone has different ideas and questions. And so it's been helpful for me to be able to know what people are thinking and needing to know. And let's hope, one day all those questions may be living items. And an equity committee, I definitely, to your point, think that, and much to Tina's point, outside of just the CIWP work, I love the one you just brought up around COVID, like the distribution and COVID. I think that's fantastic, and what a timely discussion. So I think there's a lot of possibility there. And then Chirag with renaming, it hasn't been in a presentation that I've given, but it's one that I have been talking with the Office of Equity about, and some folks downtown around the actual board agenda the day that they do meet on the renaming, and if we can have students present, or what our presence can be. I don't yet have a definitive answer, but I certainly agree and appreciate the idea that we would get to put our students' work forward. And I think it would be phenomenal if they'd be able to, even if it's just being present, to watch it or be recognized. Or so it's definitely something I've been working on. I don't have a definitive yet, but I would love to see it come to fruition also. So once I do, I for sure will share that information. That's all.
Okay. I believe everything that was brought up was addressed. I'm sorry, Lori, you switched places on my screen. Okay.
I know, because I've been doing a lot of activism lately, and they all use the raise your hand thing, and I've been on Zoom a lot. Michelle McNally, I wanted to throw out maybe that I don't know if the kids already had to pick their group, like what their project is, but maybe inviting some of these kids that have to do projects to talk to maybe the equity committee or the diverse learner committee, and finding ways to partner. So maybe that one of their projects would be something that would work well with the diverse learners committee, or, you know what I mean? Just thinking of different ways to get the kids involved with us. Cause I know I would love to work with them, and I have ideas. But I just want to throw that out there. So I think that would be a great partnership and make them feel like they're part of the team too.
Thank you.
And just to piggyback off the student voice, I love the idea Chirag put on the table about, really thinking about what that presentation looks like before the board. I don't know how we can get that information, but I've seen presentations presented before, and having students at the forefront of that would be amazing.
I'm hopeful.
Yeah, and yes, and to what you shared, Mira, about the regards to what the question Melissa had put on the table, as well as what Patty had put on the table around the equity work. I mean, absolutely, the committee is an opportunity to engage additional stakeholders as well too. So just wanted to affirm that. Thank you.
I just want to say, like, for everybody who's rode this out for so long, it shows that you really are interested and you care. And I get really excited. Obviously, I don't control my face very well. But if there is a committee, if there's something that you've all heard about today that you think, I know I want to do that, don't wait for the official email to come out. Use the LSC email or contact Tina, or I'm sure any of us, and let us know that you're interested and what your ideas are, because, there's lots of things that are going to be happening, and we want to get as many people as possible involved and hear as many different voices.
Okay, anyone else have anything?
Time to watch the news. No.
I just wanted to say one thing that I've been hearing a lot of LSCs having very contentious and pretty nasty kind of interactions at some of the LSC meetings this week. And I would like to thank everybody here and all the parents who spoke as well for just everyone being really respectful and listening to others' opinions. And when we're disagreeing, to at least be respectful of each other's opinions. And it makes me proud of our school community that people have been it's a very stressful time. I know we didn't talk about a lot of the stuff that's probably out of our control completely right now. And so it was nice to kind of focus on what we do have control over. And I hope that we can continue to have a diversity of opinions that are expressed and that we continue to respect each other, knowing that we're all here trying to make our school a better place.
Thank you,
Agreed.
Kate.
Thank you.
So now we move on to action items and next steps. And so where we discussed the action items from the last meeting, just kind of a sanity check to make sure that everything that we captured last time was either completed or we move it forward. And then also just to recap the action items taken for this meeting. Looking at the action items from the last meeting, Nick, you're usually pretty fast with this. Did you find any? I'm looking at them now. Well, we have the Sergeant at Arms that will be carried over to the March agenda.
The bylaws.
Yeah, the bylaws.
The code of conduct.
Oh, yeah. I'm just looking at the, I'm just making sure we didn't miss any, that all the actions from the last meeting were completed.
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I think they were. Oh, the LSC council information. Did you get all of that from everyone?
Oh, you know what? I didn't look at that before. Hold on. Let me get my other computer right now and I'll check.
Okay.
And the update, I know I hadn't filled it in. Do I just fill it in on there?
Yeah.
And then resend it to you, or is it like a living document?
It's a Google Doc.
It's a Google Doc? Okay,
You
I'll
should
do
have
that tonight
edited.
after this.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so just want to remind any member who hasn't filled that information out to go ahead and do that. And then also just a reminder to get fingerprinted for all board members, and a reminder that those of you who have not completed your LSC training since 2016 to get that done within 6 months.
Can I ask, does anybody know, I mean, Jose, you're there. When I went into the doc or whatever it is, it says that I've completed all of the things because I was on an LSC before, but I don't remember the last time. So would it reset if I was no longer up to date?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know what you can do? If you want, send me an email. And what happens is, were you in a different LSC? What was?
Yeah, I was on the LSC at Beard School. And so I know
so
I'd
what I
done all
can
the
do
modules.
is I can probably look for your information, and then it will tell me, that you completed all your modules. So, I'll probably need just to transfer that information to this council.
And I mean, I'm happy to do it again. And if, just so everybody on the LSC knows, there's a bunch of community trainings going on right now. So if you would rather do a real training than just the online thing, I can send that information to the group. So if you want to work with an online trainer to go through your modules, you can do that. Or, you can also just do it on your own.
So send me an email, and then I'll look for that information. Yeah, I mean, I always recommend to retake the training, but I mean, when people ask me, do I have to retake it? You don't, but it's encouraged.
Okay, thank you. Thanks to the both of you. So for action items for this meeting, Sandra, do you want to recap those, or do you want me to tell you what I have, or how do you want? It's up to you.
Yeah, I can read what I have. Add Sergeant at Arms next meeting agenda, Mira to send out budget information, Mira to share CIWP, Mira to share current strategic plan for LSC to think through how it aligns to CWIP, and next steps before April meeting, and then LSC members to add contact information, get fingerprinted, and complete privacy training as needed.
Okay, very good. I would add to Mira sending out the CIWP, I think she was also going to send out the resources that the CIWP team is using as we go through that work. And let's see. This
Sorry, say that again. WP, what?
The CI, going to send out the resources that the CIWP team is using to do the work, the equity resources.
Got it.
And then the strategic plan will go to the April agenda. And I think
We want to include, I'm sorry if I missed it, the recommendations from the bylaws and code of conduct committee.
Yes, that will be on the agenda. Thank you, Sarah. I should write that down as a reminder.
Those will be sent, like similar to my principal, those will be sent 48 hours ahead, or we did, I don't think we discussed that, did we?
Yeah, it'll be sent 48 hours ahead.
Okay. I just won't be able to read them at the same time that we're talking, that's all.
Okay, did anyone have any other questions or action items that you may have missed, or agenda items for March? If something does come up, please do reach out to me if there's something that you would like to see on the agenda. Okay, the next regular meeting is March 3rd at 6 p.m. I think we're still planning to be virtual no matter what school is doing, right, Mira? Okay, so the next meeting is virtual indeed. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Seconds.
Lots of seconds. Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. Or a vote by roll call one last time. Mira.
Yes.
Lori.
She nodded. Yeah.
Nick.
Nick is a yes.
Marilyn.
Yes.
Emily.
Yes.
Cindy.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Mac.
Yes.
Kirsten.
Yes.
Sandra.
Yes.
Kate.
Yes.
And I am a yes. And Sandra, the count?
12 yeses.
All right. Thanks everyone for a productive, long, I know, but very productive meeting. Great conversation. Everyone take care. Thanks everyone who attended the call in from our parent and community people.
Thank you, Tina.